Hello and welcome to Trusty Chords, the podcast which aims to celebrate music and those that create it. When you think about Australian music, it's a little hard not to think about Davey Lane. That might sound grandiose, but given he's spent more than 25 years as a guitarist for local legends UMI, it's hard to classify him any other way. Joining the already established outfit at just the age of 18, Lane swiftly found himself as part of Aussie music royalty, eventually going on to be part of ARIA award-winning releases and countless revered live shows. He's also stretched his musical wings with his other band, The Pictures, and since 2013 he's been releasing solo gear as well. While last year's brilliantly titled cover album How To Make Davey Volume 1 was one of my favourite records of 2024, this year Lane is back with another album, this time, finally, a party record. Feeling like a love letter to classic 70s rock, it is a testament to his anachronistic place within the world of Australian music. But for those listening close, it's not exactly a party record in the strictest sense. It's a little bit deep, it's a little bit powerful, and it's a great example of Lane's many and varied talents. This week, I was lucky enough to have a brief chat with Davey Lane about his musical journey and his latest record. Just a quick warning, Davey was out and about when we had the chat, so there's a couple of audio dropouts here and there, but if you don't mind, then neither do I. Anyway, have a listen to Davey Lane's Finally a Party record when it arrives next week, have a listen to our chat, and I'll see you at the end of the episode for some general housekeeping. Davey Lane, thank you very much for joining this episode of the Trusty Chords podcast.
Hey, Tyler. No, thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you for your time.
So for those who might not recognise your name, could you give me a couple of quick words on who you are and why we're chatting today?
I am, I think of myself primarily as a guitar player, but I've always been kind of writing songs and just by proxy of they're not really having anyone else around to sing them. I've just ended up being the guy who sings them as well. I don't really, even though I've kind of been singing for a little bit, I don't consider myself particularly a singer, but I write songs and I sing and I play guitar for mainly Australian rock group UMI, which I've been with for it's a long time now, 26 years or something like that.
I mean, it adds up pretty quickly, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It doesn't seem like that amount of time has passed, but when you're having as much fun as we do.
I guess that I was going to say, I guess that actually works as a nice little sort of segue, because you're talking about the passage of time and everything. And what I love to do at the start of these podcasts is actually go back in time to where a love of music first formed. So do you have a recollection of your earliest memory of when music first resonated at all?
Yeah, I actually do. I can track it to a particular moment. I was kind of always aware of music growing up, and I dug through my parents' record collection. I guess we'll at some point here we'll get to my lifelong obsession with the Beatles, but it's kind of I guess I first discovered, I get my ears first pricked up when I put on my parents had Wings records in their collection, so they had Band on the Run and Venus and Mars and Wings at the Speed of Sound. So there was something about the writing on those records that began to resonate with me, and then talking to my folks, and they're like, oh, well, if you like this band, the guy that was in this band was in a band before he was in this band. You might want to listen to that as well. So that's how I track back to the Beatles. But if I were to pick one particular moment, I can't remember for sure, but I must have developed in some sort of interest in playing guitar. So for some reason my dad brought home best of The Who and called Who's Better, Who's Best, and put the record down on the put the needle down on the record, and the first song on the first side was My Generation. And as um, as soon as like, it was that first beat of that first song, I was hooked. And there was just something about the sound of that record and the power and the excitement and the danger and all that stuff that and I suppose it spoke to who I was as a kid as well, because I was so nervous and and shy, and like I hardly spoke. So um, there was something about the excitement in that music that really and later on as well, having seen the having seen videos of the Who play and seeing how Pete Townsend played guitar, there was just something about that was like, oh well, wow, this is a possible form of expression here. Like I'm not good, I'm not good with, wasn't good with dealing with people, and there's a stuff I find out, found out about myself and the way my brain works later on in life that actually makes all that stuff as a kid make a lot of sense now. But for me, it was that thing of music as a form of expression that really pulled me in. So it was probably, it's definitely hearing My Generation for the first time.
So obviously from there, you're picking up the guitar, you're playing the guitar, and then I guess if there is one thing that people know you for, it is probably for your role in UMI. But
Yeah.
obviously that isn't the headline of today's chat. But I guess I do need to ask as well. You're obviously quite young when you joined this band. So what was that
Mm.
like for you? Because I'm assuming it's an absolutely stellar experience to have this band that you admire take you on. But I'm only assuming there's probably some jaded musos out there, sort of being like, "Oh, look at this young kid," jump in the queue, sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean that's when I had first started to, um, like, yeah, I've, I guess I could talk for hours about how, you know, about the, taking on this incredible opportunity with the band that I really loved, and being, still being a kid basically. I just turned 18, so um, when I first started playing with UMI. So that was, yeah, there was I mean, I hadn't really, like, you know, personal growth nil, um, like, my people skills nil, and you're thrust into this environment where, I mean, it was, to start with, it was terrifying, you know. And at one point after my first show, which was an incredible experience, but I do remember thinking at the time, it's just like, am I contributing here, or am I like, what am I doing here? Don't feel like I'm really contributing anything of worth, and I'm just, I've got this band that I really love, and am I, like, am I detracting from what I love about this band by my involvement in it? And it was all those things. So, and there was, and of course there's, like, with that comes, uh, like you say, like, if you're in a band that work in the public sphere, that's how was my first uh, entry in, introduction into the world of criticism, and like, I guess at that point it was like people were starting to widely uh, use the internet, and like saying people write sometimes some quite nasty things on message boards and all that kind of thing. Yeah, I mean that does fuck with your head for sure. But uh, yeah, I'm really just spewing thoughts out here. I'm not
No,
really
that's completely
there's
fine.
yeah
I mean,
there's not really I but it was a lot to kind of grapple with, and it was something obviously that I really wanted to make work, and I'm just staggered looking back now. You know, I'm in my mid 40s, and the guys in the band who were like, you know, Tim wasn't even 30 at that point, and or was just about to turn 30, and you know what a risk they took by taking on, you know, someone who'd this fucking dorky kid who just finished high school, you know, like with zero professional experience. Um, yeah, it kind of it really brings into sharp focus what a risk they took by taking me on, and I'm really just, you know, a, a, a forever grateful for that.
yeah, I mean, I think I speak for everyone when I say I think everyone is forever grateful because there was some, you know, some amazing music that came out of your joining the band, and obviously the band has continued to evolve. And I guess along the way you've also evolved as a musician as well. I mean, we've since had bands like The Pictures as well, and you know, then in addition to that, you know, you've now got a whole lot of solo gear that you've been releasing over the last, was it 12, 13 years or something now?
Yeah,
So
thereabouts. Yeah,
oh,
yeah. Sorry, I feel like the pictures was kind of a bit of a more of a springboard, like than anything. Like, and we have played shows recent. We have played shows over the last few years. Gotten, you know, for fun, and those songs are fun to play, and they're actually like now that I've, you know, accrued however many years of experience since we first did that, I feel like we're kind of like, as musicians, a better band anyway. But you know, I look back at the songs I wrote then, and I think, yeah, oh, that's cute. You know, everything was kind of like, you know, every song is just about, oh, okay, well, let's make a song that sounds like this band, or you know, rather than music as something that is a conduit for emotion. You know, like it's just yeah. But anyway, blah blah blah. I'm prattling on now.
no, that is completely fine. That is what this whole podcast is about. That's exactly why I launched it, to give myself an excuse to prattle on in public. But I guess when you started releasing solo music, and I mean, as we speak, I'm looking at a copy of your The Good Born of Bad Times EP.
Oh wow!
So,
Right. Ah.
what was it that made you sort of say, you know, I'm actually going to go out on my own, you know, without, you know, without a band like you and my behind me, I'm going to put my own name out there. What was it that made you make that leap?
Well, I guess I'd you know, I'd had this year, you know, however many years by that point. Um, you know, 10, 15 years in UMI, and you know, my musical tastes had grown, and I was fascinated by a range of genres rather than just kind of like, you know, um, backward, you know, retro leaning guitar rock pop music. So I had been kind of recording a lot more and experimenting with you know, different ways of writing and writing on different instruments and all that kind of thing. And I needed a an outlet for that, and it was yeah, really just kind of developing some sort of confidence as a songwriter, and someone, you know, and as, I guess, an engineer, like, you know, I've always been fascinated with production, and you know, that was one of the things about the Beatles, hearing them for the first time as a kid, like hearing Sergeant Pepper, and even though it was probably probably quite a few years till after that I ever dabbled in any psychedelic drugs, but but just that feeling of that, yeah, like it's like how did how did this sonically kind of you know make things so kaleidoscopic,
Yeah.
and so it was just my fascination with production, and it was just an all encompassing thing. It's just that I'd it's just like, well, I can write um these songs, and I'd accrued a bunch of songs, and it's like, well, I might as well do something with them. Like, and to still to this day, that's my kind of my goal. Really is just to I don't consider what I do as a solo artist a career, and it's certainly not something that I make money from. It's
Yeah.
it's just a compulsion to put music out into the world, and that's I guess that's one thing that's been a constant in terms of my motivations for doing it.
Well, I guess on that topic of putting new music out into the world, I do want to touch on this new album of yours. But I guess first of all,
Mm,
I need to say each year I rate and then collate the albums that I listen to each year to determine my favorites. It's basically a nice way of working all this out. And I
that's
think
a great idea.
last
Yeah.
year I listened to about 450 albums and released the list on Christmas Eve. So despite it being released only 3 days earlier, the exceptional How to Make Davey album last year made it into the top 10. So
Oh wow.
it's such a brilliant piece of work, and one that I'm very glad to see has the suffix volume 1 attached to it, because it
Yeah.
was such an exceptional take on these brilliant songs. And I guess, the title, also the release date as well, being very informative. It was such a great selection of songs that you've picked and then made your own as well.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. Well, and that's going back to um my fascination with recording and production and all that kind of thing. I I've always been recording covers just for fun, and a few years ago, my friend John Bon Goes, who has a radio show here in Melbourne on Triple R every Sunday, and basically picks a theme and has a whole group of musicians that he throws a theme out to every week, and either like people might write a bespoke song, or like, but I've just used it as an opportunity to record favorite songs of mine. So that's how I how I've gathered enough to put a covers record out, and it's something that I continue to do. So yeah, I'll probably will keep trying to throw one out every year if possible.
Amazing.
But yeah, I mean that's like I'm a music fan first and foremost. So why not doff your cap to the ones you love,
Absolutely, and I mean, it was just very wonderful to see a very faithful take on Up the Junction, and done in such a
Oh
brilliant way as
yeah.
well. It's a wonderful, wonderful song, but we're not
Oh
here
man,
to get
I
bogged down
love
in
that.
covers, I guess,
That's all right.
because
No, that's
we
cool.
because I need to touch on this newer record of yours, which is finally a party record. So, I guess, tell me, how did this come about? Because it's a stellar piece of work, very 70s influence, very upbeat sounding, but it's not
Mm.
necessarily a party record in the stricter sense, is it?
No, no. I mean, yeah, there's a healthy healthy dose of irony in that title. It's yeah, I mean it's like thematically it tracks a bit of a bit of a kind of traumatic time, um if for me mentally, I guess. And it was I was a yeah. I mean, and on that note, I was originally going to call it the Great Unraveling, but I'm glad I did. I think I went with the better title. But I musically, a lot of the songs kind of came through uh, the COVID time. everybody in their houses, and I was lucky to be able to have all my instruments set up at home, and so I just kind of every day was, everybody had a different experience back then, and especially in Melbourne, it was a strange time. But I guess I was lucky enough to be able um, to just have everything set up there. So I actually I really enjoyed it. Um, that thing of all I've got is time. So I had, wrote probably about 30 songs through that time in various stages of completion. And a lot of these songs on the record were musical ideas that I either had different lyrics for, or, like the startings of a melody, but musically, and in terms of like the backing and the kind of the direction of that it would take in a production sense, were all those ideas were kind of formed back then. But I guess lyrically informed by experiences that came a little later on, probably about 2.5 years ago, um, that actually quite along the lines of Up the Junction by Squeeze. Funny you mentioned that. But yeah, that was basically it. I kind of had these songs lying around, and stuff started to shift in my life, and I just, I felt this immediate compulsion to write about. And that's one thing that I'm super grateful for, that I'm able to write, because it's a form of diarising and therapy for me. So it's a real outlet for a lot of that stuff too, which is good. So that's about it, really.
And I guess one question I always love to ask of artists who do have a new record is, what does an album like this say about who Davey Lane is in 2025? Because obviously it's been a few years in the making, but I mean, putting it
Yeah.
out there sort of like, next week it comes out. So, putting it
Yep.
out there in this day and age, what does it say about you in the current age?
Yeah, well, I think I don't know. Like, it's hard to. I haven't sat down and listened to this next to. I don't really. Once I've finished something, I rarely go back and listen to it. I might, a few years down the track, like throw it on, or I might have to relearn something for a show or something like that. But I rarely go back and listen back to things that I've done once they're out into the world. So, but I think, I don't know. Like it was. I'm kind of proud of, and I hate using the fucking word journey, but I'm proud of the, whatever trajectory that life took me through those years. And I guess I'm proud that I, came out the other end of it. And that's there is a bit of metaphorical meaning with the album cover too. And I know, like, everyone who's seen the album cover goes, it's Rod Stewart, The Land of Crossing. I was like, yeah, well, no shit, of course it is. But I, in a ways, I'm kind of like walking away walking from the past into the future, and like, still holding a candle to the past, but walking away from it with this record under my hand. So it's just like, you know, it's the old life lemons lemonade analogy, and I'm just glad that I got through whatever it was back then, and I got a record out of it. And I feel like I'm probably talking about when I first started making solo music, I'm probably quite my confidence has come a bit of a ways since then, and when I sit down to write, I think I have a clearer idea of knowing what to write about, or what kind of musical directions are more kind of my own that I've developed over the years, I guess. So, and having said that, there are always musical influences that I wear on my, proudly wear on my sleeve. And if I play something that I've written, somebody will say, "Oh, that bit sounds a bit like the Beatles," and it's like, well, yeah, of course, it's in the musical DNA, so it's always going to be there a little. But yeah, but I'm glad to have, have done it for long enough that I'm kind of getting a better sense of what is my own, I guess.
Amazing. Well, I can definitely say to anyone who is listening to this, it is a brilliant record and definitely worth your time.
Oh, thank you.
I can't confirm yet if it's going to make my top 10 like How to Make Davey did, but we've still got what five more months of the year to work that out.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of good records out there.
Of course. And I guess that's another nice little segue just for this last little segment of the podcast, which is where its namesake is derived. So, Trusty Chords sees me follow this 1, 3, and 5 structure of standard chord, ask about one artist that's been impactful, 3 albums that have been influential, and 5 songs you can always turn to. So it's a little bit wordy, but I guess my first question for you here, Davey, is who is the one artist that has inspired you the most, whether it be personally or creatively?
Oh,
And it's totally fine to have, honorable mentions if need be here.
yeah. Okay. Cool. Oh, geez. Well, like we're talking about the Beatles. I mean, and I guess all roads lead back to the Beatles. Somehow, and I have, yeah, and I probably like. I guess the honourable mentions for me, it's kind of like artists over the years that have like like that kind of thing of songwriter, producer, engineer, people who can do those things have always been fascinating to me. I guess, and McCartney was like that. His first his first solo record was something he'd kind of played, recorded all on his own. So it was just yeah, like I guess because kind of artists who are able to do that, make records, make records on their own. So I guess, yeah, like Jeff Lynne, a big hero of mine. Peter Gabriel was a huge, is a huge, in more recent years, like a huge influence on me, a huge influence on this record, even though like musically there's maybe a couple little things here and there that nod to Peter. Yeah, like, well, what one artist that I have to mention, because I have had the opportunity to work with him in recent years, but I'd have to put Todd Rundgren in there.
I definitely had a feeling he would get a mention from something that you said today.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, like Nick Lowe. Yeah, so it's and a lot of what those artists did and how their kind of formative influences go back to the Beatles as well. So it's just like, I do feel like with a lot of stuff that I love, things musically track back to that.
Of course.
It's like, and another artist that I really love, that I also have had, I don't want this to be just turned into a fucking list of names that I've dropped, but Robin
Feel free to
Hitchcock
brag.
is, yeah, that's right. Hitchcock as you know, I'd always loved his writing, and again, also had the opportunity to work with him recently. He's become a really good friend of mine, and you know, he is similarly like he will say that his, you know, musical year zero is well, he actually wrote a book about it last year called 1967, um, and that yeah, and you know, obviously Pepper was a was a big one for him, and that's you know, we're friends for many different reasons, but our mutual fascination of the Beatles is looms large in our late evening chats. So yeah, so I mean, yeah, I mean it's an obvious one, but like but the Beatles, but for where I am today, right now, like I could just as easily say Peter Gabriel, because I've pretty wholly immersed myself in his work over the last couple of years. So
I mean, they're all
and even his early stuff with Genesis, like you know, I don't mind leaning into the prog zone a little bit. So
I mean,
yeah.
these are all brilliant artists that you mentioned, of course, and I can see why they would, you know, go into this. I'm trying to think of a decent analogy, but I can't think of anything. I can see why they would, you know, contribute to where you are musically today.
Yeah.
I guess on that topic as well, you know, I'd love to know 3 albums that have impacted you the most. This could always be ones that you're always throwing on, or something that was more integral to the musical evolution.
Yeah, okay. Um, this is a tricky one. Well, I guess because I've just mentioned Peter Gabriel, I'll put one of his records in there, which is his third solo record. It's his first 4 solo albums were just called Peter Gabriel, but
Yeah, he didn't make it easy, did he?
no, he didn't. He didn't. Um, um, but fans refer to it as Melt because it's
Oh
the one that
yes.
looks like half of his face is melting off. But that in and that just production, songwriting, and just fearless kind of innovation, and I guess that's been a big influence on me. It's like in terms of not being afraid to because there's always been this thing of, you know, making records and it's like, oh well, oh maybe don't do that, because if we keep it a bit straighter, then that'll just be more poppy. And it's just like, well, what the fuck is poppy? Like, I love pop music, but does if we take the poppy direction, does that guarantee that you're going to get your song played on the radio? No, of course it doesn't. So like why not take the more jarring, sometimes jarring, but you know, more creatively rewarding decision. And so I guess his fearlessness and it would really shows in that record. So that would be a big one for me. 2 more records. I don't think I'll put a Beatles record in there because you know, it's like, how long is a piece of string? And you know, like a lot of Beatles fans, it's always changing. So, well, I guess yeah, okay. Well, I can pick one that, you know, speaking of Todd, that involves in him in a production sense and incorporates one of another big musical influence on me, XTC, and I picked their album Skylarking. Um, that again, just ridiculously amazing songs and just yeah, just production incredible. And you know, like there's a pretty, you know, famously tension between Todd and Andy Partridge from XTC on the making of that album. There's a lot, you know, there's a lot out there if you look for it. But I mean, that's a great example of sometimes the you know, friction between artist and producer creating something really fucking amazing. And I don't always subscribe to that. Sometimes that kind of pressure and that kind of tension can just wouldn't work for me personally on either end, on the producer end or the artist end. But I mean, that's a great example of that. And I don't know, like I guess third record, I would probably just pick something that was a big influence, that, or just something that I loved growing up. And it would probably be a tie between. I'm bending the rules now,
Oh,
aren't
feel
I?
free.
Tie between "In It for the Money" by Supergrass and "Owly Daily" by the group that I'm been lucky enough to play for the last quarter of a century. So, both those records growing up for me, I guess they opened up my they were a big part of my musical enlightenment. And I guess from there I learned that music wasn't just a thing that was great in the 60s or the 70s. That there were bands in the, I mean, grew up a pretty sheltered kid, and I didn't really have much of an idea what was happening in the world around me. But yeah, I guess that, like, when I heard those records, I was like, oh, there are bands around today that that aren't, Green Day or the Red Hot Chili Peppers, that do make great music, that does, sometimes nod to that, the music from the past that I loved. And they were, I mean, they both came out when I was like 14 or 15, so it's a pretty good age to
Very formative era, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So the
Yeah.
last question I have for you today is, and this could also be a very difficult one, just based on the album's answer, but I'd love to know 5 songs you can always turn to, whether it be for comfort, for excitement, anything at all. The 5 trusty songs that you might have in your back pocket.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's actually one that's on the that I covered on the covers record, the Kiss by Judy Sill.
Oh yes.
That's one that I like to pick songs that are like, uh, emotionally moving, and that's like testaments to the power of music. That, if I can put something on that can move me enough to to move me enough to physically feel something, or to start crying or whatever, like, if like that would be right at the top for me.
Mm.
um I would probably, well, I mentioned Jeff Lynne before, but I'll probably have to pick an ELO song. um there's actually a song that was on his last record, and it's called uh Losing You, it's called. And it's, again, like, and it's a very moving song. And it's like perfectly sums up for me Jeff Lynne's mastery of chords and melody, and it's just a gorgeous song. um I would pick a song off that third Peter Gabriel record, and that song would be which is called, sorry, and that song is called "And Through the Wire."
Oh
Um,
yes. Wonderful song.
oh yeah, you know that, awesome,
Absolutely. I
yeah.
mean, it's a brilliant record, and yeah, that is, yeah, wonderful song. End of side
It's
one, I think it is.
that's right. And which has got Paul Weller on guitar on that. So he plays that really slashing kind of riff. Um, that song just, if I feel like I need to, if I'm struggling to get out of bed, or if I feel like I need something to kick me up the bum, that's it for me. yeah, and Through the Wire, I just love that song. I don't know. I mean, this is probably an obvious pick because everyone's banging on about them because they're back together and playing shows. But I'd put Slide Away by Oasis in there because, Oasis were a big one for me as a kid. So, and that song I mean, that song is just transcendent. I'll pick a. Well, it's not really an obscure song because it's more of a cult classic. But Only a Shadow by Cleaners for Venus, an awesome band. It's just one guy, Martin Newell, who again made records by himself, and it's just everything that I love about guitar pop songwriting. It's got odd chords and it's just got great moves in it, and it's just that's the song that I just put on if I need to feel a little bit better about the world.
Understandable. I'm also very, very glad to see that the Cleaners from Venus finally got a run on this podcast.
Excellent.
Very, very underrated band, I feel, in the grand scheme of things. So
Absolutely.
I'm very stoked you've given them some love.
Great. That's good.
I feel like this is where I need to say, Davey Lane, thank you so very much for your time today and for being part of the Trusty Chords podcast as well.
Thanks so much for having me. I mean, this is what I do, nerding out on music is what I is my happy place. So thank you for giving me for facilitating that for me for the last half hour.
Thank you for listening to Trusty Chords. If you listened to this episode and enjoyed it, I'd really appreciate it if you were able to take a few moments to like, follow, share, and review this podcast on your preferred platform of choice. As always, no obligation, but I'm forever grateful if you do. I'm also over on Instagram and Facebook at Trusty Chords Podcast, all one word. And I've also got a blog on my website, which is tylerjenke.com. That's tylerjenke/Trusty Chords Podcast, all one word. That's where you can find a list of all the songs chosen by my guests each week, along with a playlist of all the songs chosen thus far. You can also find a link to the Buy Me a Coffee platform, where you can throw me a few dollars to keep this podcast running if you feel so inclined. I also need to thank Davey Lane for spending his time with me this week for the podcast, and I also need to thank Joe from Joe Corbett Publicity for helping to organise the chat as well. But once again, thank you kindly for listening, and I hope to see you all again next week as I continue to celebrate music and those that create it.